Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. The international break is finally over and we are back to club football and we are back with another match preview. So today we're going to be looking ahead to our game against Derby County on the weekend at Deepdale, and I am joined by opposition fan Jacob from the RamsTalk podcast here to give his views. Jacob, thank you very much for coming on the channel. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a pleasure to be invited on.
Now, you're very familiar with the Championship, but you went down to League One for a couple of seasons before you got promoted. How was it like down in League One, and how does it feel back now you're in the Championship?
To be honest, it feels like normality has resumed. It feels like the Championship is our place. It's all I've really known as a Derby supporter. So being in League One was strange. Every game felt like a cup final for the opposition. People were coming to Pride Park to play dirty, sort of what we're doing now in the Championship. But a lot of teams were coming to Pride Park, and it was one of the biggest games of the season. So no game was really easy. But I think the atmosphere in League One, the supporters make a difference, and the away allocations were a lot smaller. When fans were coming to Pride Park, it was much smaller numbers. So it was hard to get yourself up for the games as a supporter in comparison to being back in the Championship. But obviously, we won a lot more games. We got to witness the promotion, so there were definitely the peak moments, the positive moments, and definitely that promotion for me is my favourite memory as a Derby supporter. So it was frustrating to go down in the way we did. Obviously, we couldn't really help it. But yeah, to get back up within 2 seasons without really even spending a penny, it was a really good season for us, and it just feels like we're back home now, to be honest.
How would you rate your season so far in the Championship?
I'd say it's going okay. I don't think we've blown anyone out of the water, but we've definitely not been poor. I think a lot of people would have expected and did tout us to really, really struggle. I think Paul Warne doesn't have a great track record in the Championship, obviously with a different team now in comparison to his days at Rotherham. But no, I think based off early expectations, I think we've done a little bit better than what was expected. And obviously the tight-knit nature of the Championship, with a couple of losses, we could be in the relegation zone, but a couple of wins, we could be in the playoffs. So it's hard to tell so early. It still feels quite early into the season, but so far I'd say so good.
Yeah, what were your expectations at the beginning of the season before it kicked off? Where would you have been happy finishing?
21st. Honestly, just above the
Just
relegation
survive.
zone. Yeah, I think we said in one of our podcasts when we were previewing the whole season, we did a little prediction of where we thought we were going to finish, and I said 21st because I feel like there's enough around the club, that the fan base does make a difference, and the atmosphere you can generate at your ground makes a difference. And the way that we battled when we had the point deduction in our relegation season, to me, proved that that 12th man is a serious factor. And I never thought that we'd get relegated again. I didn't think we'd be going straight back down. And obviously, it's still a possibility that we do. But for me, early expectations were to be in a dogfight for the whole season, really, and just kind of avoid it in the final day or two of the season.
So you've had a pretty decent start to the season. Has your expectation changed given the start you've had?
I think there's been more reason to be positive than I initially thought there would be. Um, I'd like to think we finish higher than 21st now. So I'd say, yeah, I think my expectations have changed slightly. But again, I'm not getting too carried away. I don't think we're going to be anywhere near the playoffs. I don't think we're quite at that level yet. But I think mid-table, sort of between that sort of 12th and 16th sort of range would be a good first season back in the Championship. And I think we're more than capable of doing that.
I wanted to ask you about Tom Barkhausen because he was one of my favourite players when he was with us before he then moved to you. And yeah, he was like a guaranteed starter with us until we changed our manager, and then which came with a change of formation, which made us play with wing backs, which obviously did not suit him at all. So I know he hasn't played this much this season, but how has he been the last couple of seasons with you?
He's a strange player. It's sort of he has his purple patches, and he's had a purple patch in each season so far. But he seems very far down the pecking order now. He's struggled with injuries in most
Mm.
seasons that he's been with us. It's his third season with us now, so he's definitely had his moments for us, especially in League One where he's made a really good impact. And he's had little decent runs in the starting 11 where again he's made a positive impact. But I'd be surprised if he was a Derby player, maybe come January, maybe come next season. I think he's just a little bit. It could surprise me and go on another purple patch any moment. He could come back into the fold, but we've not really seen a lot from him this season, and I don't really expect to see a lot more from him now. So he's one of the players I think it could almost be the end of the road for him at Derby at the moment.
Who have been your standout players so far? Who should we look out for?
Well, I think going forwards at the moment, especially Jerry Yates, obviously on loan from Swansea's, just sort of started hitting form. Scored a brilliant overhead kick against Plymouth before the international break, and he's just a clever player. He's one of those players where I feel like, although he is the striker, he doesn't need to be scoring the goals to have a positive impact. Obviously, any goal is a bonus, but he's a very clever player that I'd be keeping an eye on. Looking into midfield, Ebu Adams, what he does off the ball is next to none. I think he's got the most tackles in the division of any player so far this season. Brilliant signing from Cardiff. Obviously, we had him on loan at the back end of last season, and he was crucial to our promotion, absolutely crucial. So he's stepped up to the Championship, been really impressive. I think they're probably the two main ones. I think Kenzo Houtmain is a tricky little player. We signed him from the Eredivisie in the summer. So yeah, there's a few players to keep an eye on, but I think with Derby you've got more of a team effort. We don't really have too many standout players that you're gonna want to keep a strict eye on during the game. It's more of a collective effort and how we move as a team that I'd say is our strong point.
Is there a general style of play that you've noticed with Derby this season, or are you just completely unpredictable?
It's fairly unpredictable. I think it really depends on who we're playing. Obviously, it
Mm.
took us until a couple of weeks ago to get our first away win of the season. We went a long time without picking up a win away from home. Um, and it depends who we're playing. I mean, we beat Middlesbrough at home 1-0, and that was very backs to the wall, 11 men behind the ball, counter when you get the opportunity. And we got a slice of luck and ended up winning the game 1-0. But I think we have been a little bit more fluid recently. We have changed formation a few times, but I think Warren tends to look at who we're facing and he bases his team off that. So it's very rare that he changes a winning team. The fact that the international break has the international break is over. So we've had 2 weeks where injuries might have occurred or players might have returned from injuries. He probably wouldn't have been too happy with the result against Plymouth last time out. The performance was very good, but the result was a disappointing one. So there might be a few changes from that last lineup. And as far as the actual playing style goes, it's hard to pinpoint. It does sort of feel very direct, very sort of make sure you're not conceding, very reliant on the defensive attributes of the team, and then getting it out wide and crossing it in. It feels like that is the basics of how we try and play.
Yeah, well, here at Preston with Paul Heckingbottom coming in, obviously Ryan Lowe leaving us after one game in charge. He's tried to play a certain way, and we've seen glimpses of that, and we do look really good. But then we have like I'll say the odd game, but it's happening quite frequently now, like the Bristol City game, Portsmouth away, Plymouth away, where we've conceded three or more goals now on 5 different occasions. So I think we, with obviously his second man, Stuart McCall, he was a manager before he became second in charge. But in an interview when they joined, they said Heckingbottom would be focusing on the defensive work, and then Stuart McCall is focusing on attack. So our chances have certainly increased since they came in, because under Ryan Lowe we hardly had any chances possession wise. We like every game we would have like 40% less, and with the odd one chance. So we had to take our chances basically last season if we wanted to score. So we've certainly improved under Heckingbottom with way more possession, way more chances. But we just need to keep that back door shut. But you're currently sat in 12th with not the greatest of away records, with only the one win away from home so far this season. But as you did mention, it did come fairly recently in your last away game, actually against Coventry City, in that 2-1 win. For a score prediction, what are your thoughts how this one could end?
It's always tough to call with Derby, as is any game in the Championship. But I do feel confident that we're capable of getting a result. I think we've shown enough so far to be able to back ourselves now away from home. So I don't think we're going to go away from home and keep a clean sheet. We're yet to do that, to my knowledge. So I'll go for a 2-1 to Derby County. I think we have enough to get a win, but I think it'll be a very tight game, very scrappy game. And I think it will come down to whoever wants it most on the day.
I think, barring the Bristol City game, we've been very strong at home this season. We're very good defensively at home, unlike we are away. Kept a clean sheet against Sunderland in that 0-0 draw. And I think certainly after conceding 3 to Portsmouth and Plymouth just in the last couple of games, and Bristol City as well, during the international break, I think we're going to have worked on just keeping the door shut and defensively. So Osmajic is returning for us actually after his 8-match ban. And we certainly are missing him up front. We are missing out on some goal scorers. But I am going to go boring for this one. I do think it will end goalless. So I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw for this one. So that is it for the match preview. Thank you very much for coming on.
No problem.
Thank you all for watching as well. And I will see you all in my next video.